So ultimately, what you want to do is convince anybody that's thinking about voting Lib Dem to vote Labour, or convince anybody that's not thinking about voting at all to vote for Labour, or even thinking about people that might vote Conservative to vote for Labour. What would you say to anyone? First of all, in terms of the people that will not vote, that won't turn up, what would you say to those people to actually get them down to the polling station and actually, put a cross next to Labour?
I could say these really high-minded, patronising things that, that universal suffrage was fought and died for, and you absolutely have a right and a responsibility to vote. And I think I can understand why people don't. They think we're all the same. They've heard it all before. I think Nick Clegg has a huge burden of responsibility for the cynicism that people feel, that people in public life can't be trusted because they make empty promises. I would urge everybody to have their say and vote in this election. Even when people say to me, and they slam the door, and they're looking to slam the door in my face and say, I'm never going to vote for you, I say, well, at least you're voting. Because it is important that everyone has our voice, and it keeps us real as well. And
in terms of anybody that's thinking of voting, undecided voters, anyone that's undecided, that's yet to decide exactly where they're going to, vote when it comes around to it, we've talked about it at great length, obviously, but what would be the thing that you try and convince people to vote for the Labour Party?
Well, it's two competing visions, really, in this election. It's a vision of a country that works for everybody, where we all look after one another, where our communities where we live and work and where we rub alongside people in our workplaces, where we have a country where everyone looks after one another, or we have a country where it only really works for those at the very top. Those at the top of business, those at the top in top universities, it only works for them. This actually is a really galvanising election that I hope will imbue people with the spirit that they can achieve whatever they want to.
Do you think this election will change politics forever? I think that we're moving towards a system in which coalition is becoming the new norm. We've seen the rise of UKIP, we've seen somewhat the rise of the Greens to a certain extent, the SNP in Scotland. Ultimately, do you think that we're going to be moving to a proportional representation is going to have to be...
Joe, if you'd asked me this question 2 years ago and I hadn't gone into the political process, then I'd be a pundit like you and I'd be sat here and we'd be speculating about what might happen. People haven't voted yet. The vote's coming on May the 7th. I don't want to prejudge it. What I'm campaigning hard for, what I'm supporting my colleagues who are campaigning in places like Warrington South and Bury North, where Labour have got massive troops on the ground to win this election, is for a majority Labour government. And with a final push and a final surge, I think we can do that. And that's all I'm focused on between now and then. And I tell the people of Hazel Grove, if the Lib Dems are campaigning on Labour values because they've got no faith at all in their own record in government, then you should too. You should vote Labour and change the tone of the conversation in Hazel Grove, because finally you've got a Labour candidate who's fighting for you.